There's this very interesting story I want to share with you today. So many years ago, Jesus was sitting in the temple treasury and he was watching people put their gifts in the treasury. There were so many rich men who came and gave what they were willing to give, lots of wealth, lots of gold coins. They poured it into the treasury. And there was this woman who came and gave 2 cents. Jesus said that the woman, who was a widow, gave much more than all the coins the rich men put into the treasury. And his reason for saying that was that the rich men gave what they were willing to give out of the abundance they have, but the widow gave all that she had. And in the sight of God, that was much more than what the rich men gave. That tells such an instructive lesson or principle. And the question it makes me ask is, how much does what I am doing matter to me? I'll give you another example. There are people who make their first million naira and they are over the top. They are excited. They are very, very happy and feel so fulfilled and successful for making their first million. There are other people who have tens of millions and they don't even feel successful. Why? Probably their father was a multimillionaire and he handed over lots of riches to them. Meanwhile, the other person who made his first million started from hawking on the streets or started from ground zero and made a millionaire, and he's over the moon because of a millionaire. You see, what I realize is that what we quantify as successful or what we quantify as important varies between individuals. We are coming from very different points of view. There is the student who gains admission into Harvard and he's excited about it, but it's not so much of a big deal. I know Harvard is a big deal, but to this guy, it's not so much of a big deal. Why? Because he grew up in highbrow England or London. He went to the Ivy League schools in the UK, and now he just came for university in another Ivy League school in the United States. But then there's this other guy who didn't even have a chance to have primary education in maybe India or Pakistan, somewhere in one of these developing countries. Is India a developing country? I think it is. But he didn't get a chance to start education until maybe he was 10 years old, and he really struggled and he really did the late nights using the lanterns to study, and he finally got an opportunity to study in Harvard. That is so much more a success for him than the person who went to the Ivy League schools and whose parents can pay the tuition fees for Harvard. I hope you get the point. The point is, what you're doing, how much does it matter to you? How important is it to you? How much of yourself are you giving to achieve that thing? That's a very important question. It's a question that I have started. I started today, but I have started putting at the back of my mind when I am considering anything, even when I'm considering gifts people give to me or services people offer to me. I want to think, how much did it cost this person to give this? Because that is the real value in the gift. And I'm using the gift as an example. There's so many other ways to look at it. There is the employee who comes to work and who comes to work having traveled 1 hour, 2 hours to get to the office, having woken up maybe 5 a.m. just to be able to beat the traffic and etc. Just to be in the office and do good work. And there's the other person who lives just 5 minutes away, who can stroll into the office 5 minutes before resumption time. And you want to consider that, how much does it cost this person to do what they have done? How much of themselves have they given in performing this action? And let it guide the way you evaluate that action. So it goes both ways. Remember inversion the other day. I mean, maybe not exactly, but always look in two directions. So how much is it costing you yourself to be a blessing to others? You can, for example, I'll give you another example, and I hope I'm communicating my thought not being broken in my communication. But I'll give you another example. I remember a time when, I mean, I'm not tooting my horn to be honest, but I remember a time when I had the opportunity to give someone who came to ask for alms on the street. I gave the person something and then I moved on. And then it occurred to me that, hey, that thing you gave this person was, I didn't need that amount, to be honest. It was something I was just like, let me just get this off my hands. So I didn't really give. That was not really me giving to that person who was asking for alms. I was just getting rid of the money. It didn't matter to me anyway. I could have wasted it or whatever. And it got me thinking that, hey, so in your mind now, that was speaking to myself, like in your mind, you think you've given somebody something. You didn't really give anything. You just, it doesn't carry so much value. It didn't cost me anything. And I'm going to use another Bible reference now. David was the person who said, I will not appear before God to give something that costs me nothing. Something, I'm paraphrasing that statement by David, but the point is, when you're doing something, let it be something that matters to you. You know, don't just do it for the sake of doing it. Don't just give, just let's get rid of stuff. Some people want to get rid of items they're no longer using and they just give and they think that they have given. Yes, they have given in a sense, but in another sense, it is just getting rid of trash, I'd say. And so it doesn't cost you anything. I hope you get the point. You always ask, what is this thing I'm doing? What is it costing me? How much of myself am I putting into achieving this outcome? And try to always get yourself in a position where you're having to pay a price to achieve something. And why is that? I'm not trying to advocate for what word is that when you deliberately inflict pain on yourself? That's not what I'm trying to advocate for. The thing is that number one, you get more fulfillment and joy when you do something that costs you a lot to achieve in sort of a sacrifice for another person's happiness or success, etc. In that way, you're serving the person indeed. But beyond that, if you stay in a place where what you're doing doesn't really cost you anything, you wouldn't grow. You wouldn't stretch. You wouldn't evolve and become even more of an empathetic and a better person. You'll just remain where you are, not really giving so much of yourself, and you will be surprised. Now, I'm saying you a lot, I'm talking to myself as well, but the point is there's a sea called the Dead Sea, and I think it's called that way because things flow into it, but not so much is going out. And then it's very salty, and like there can't be life in that sea. Like fishes and organisms can't survive because of the very high salt content of that sea. And that is because it's not really giving anything out. It doesn't cost it anything, you know, it doesn't cost it anything because it's not giving anything out. It's not letting water flow out from it, it's just receiving. And that might be a geographical issue for that Dead Sea, but you don't want that to be you. You want to be a person who is constantly ripping off some parts of you, and that's not in a harmful way, but ripping off parts of you to let new life grow, letting one thing go out so that new things can fill it up, and hopefully better things, more evolved things, and you just become a happier individual overall. This is something I learned in day 47, I believe. I think this is day 47. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you tomorrow.